Okay, good morning, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the new ATCC webinar, this time presented by Zubair Talib. The webinar title is Transforming AI into a Real-World Value Beyond the Hype and Excitement. I'm Rodolfo Viola, your host and moderator for this session. Thank you for joining us today. Before we start, let me take a moment to introduce ourselves and give you a brief overview of who we are and what we do. The Argentina-Texas Chamber of Commerce, ATCC, is an independent nonprofit voluntary membership association founded in 2016 to promote investment, trade, education, and networking opportunities between Texas and Argentina. The Chamber is dedicated to building a strong economic bond between Argentina and Texas. In this webinar, we will explore how AI is fast becoming an essential tool for innovation across all sectors. Our speaker today is Zubair Talib, partner at AI expert at Soco Solution. Zubair's background is marked by entrepreneurial technology leadership, innovative product strategy, particularly in conversational and voice AI, generative AI, and large language models. Finally, we would like to thank you, our corporate members, to their continued support of the Chamber. They are Pan American Energy, a gold member, Duralite, Globant, and PCR, silver members, as well as AESA, Marlboro Farler Marial, Mayer Brown, ProShare, Q Advance, CAPEX, and Dell Technology, they are bronze members. Let us clarify that our webinars are recorded and uploaded to YouTube channel. And finally, a brief overview of our webinar series. Zubair will present his talk without interruptions. We kindly request you to pop up your questions in the Q&A chat, and we will read them to Zubair once he finishes. So let's begin. Go ahead, Zubair, it's all yours.
Great. Thank you, Rodolfo, and thank you to the Chamber for hosting this session and the opportunity to speak with you here today. I'm excited to speak with you about the topic, transforming AI into real-world value, getting beyond the hype and excitement. So the webinar, we have it organized in 4 sections. Really, the first section is a brief overview of the AI landscape and what's taking place today. The second and the main section is really a deep dive into some of the real-world opportunities of applying AI in the enterprise that exist today. And third is an overview of the state of technology and a brief approach to deploying AI in the enterprise. And then we'll, as Rodolfo mentioned, we'll conclude with Q&A. So first, about the current AI landscape. I think it's an understatement to say that things have been moving fast in the AI world. And indeed, AI is eating the world. I think, this slide just shows a few of the various things. I mean, Microsoft making a $10 billion bet and going all in, Google pivoting dramatically to launch Bard and then Gemini. Many tens of billions of dollars have been invested in OpenAI, Inflection, Anthropic, and numerous other startups. NVIDIA's market cap has jumped 4x, and from just 1 year ago was $500 billion, just $500 billion to now $2 trillion. And while the markets and capital investments have been going crazy, I think it's really telling that things like Accenture buying a company like Udacity to focus on a learning platform to teach AI to knowledge workers, or ChatGPT usage having grown to the fastest application to grow to 100 million users, and things like this that thousands of employees have had their jobs impacted. So I think it's obviously an incredible environment and lots and lots of activity. I think equally incredible has been the unrelenting pace of innovation in models and infrastructure, with one incredible model appending the next. OpenAI just seemed like not long ago they came out with GPT-3, then ChatGPT, GPT-4, GPT-4 Turbo, custom GPTs. Google came out with Palm, Palm 2, Bard, various Gemini models, Anthropic, Claude 1, 2, 3. The maker of the personal assistant Pi has had Inflection 1, 2, 2.5. X, or Twitter, has put out its Grok 1. Amazon has put out its business chat model Q. And then there's just been an incredible outburst in open source with Meta leading the way with Llama and Llama 2, models like Falcon, France's Mistral, just an incredible progress in a very short period of time and moving faster all the time. I mean, I've truly not seen this speed and scale of innovation and progress in my 25 years. I think the Harvard Business School professor and AI expert Karim Lakhani said it well. Just as the internet age led the cost of information dissemination to go to zero, the idea that you could distribute information instead of in books or CDs, you could just videos, everything could be distributed very easily, that generative AI is driving the cost of cognition and creativity down dramatically. It's not that you can't build a custom system to achieve these same results or that you couldn't do them before. It's just that it's become so much easier, so much faster, and so much cheaper to use these incredible language and cognitive creative capabilities. And while there's been a lot of hype, I thought it'd be useful to highlight some of the specific success stories around the industry, and I can do a little bit of that now. So I'll highlight this example as a really interesting one. The Mayo Clinic is a leading hospital system with over 7,000 physicians and over 70,000 employees. And as you've seen, going to a doctor, patient meets the doctor, but physician spends a lot of time actually taking notes after the fact, recording information, and it's that process is slow and potentially error prone. Leveraging generative AI technology, the system has been able to automatically convert that patient to clinician conversation into a structured clinical note draft in real time. And that kind of capability wasn't really possible before. And the introduction of that technology has had impressive results, saving clinicians, 2 hours a day in administrative work. And 91% of those notes are solely drafted by AI and don't even need any review at all whatsoever. So truly, transformative kind of things in a real world setting, really saving time and providing value right in those ways. Another example I can share is from a company called Klarna. They have a buy now, pay later program that has been growing in popularity. And as a result of that growth, they've had an incredible amount of need to support their growing customer base. So to handle all of that growing customer support, they have implemented a Gen AI-based chatbot that can, in natural language, handle a wide variety of tasks, including refunds and cancellations, even complex interactions like disputes. And the results that they have reported are amazing, stating that they have saved the need to hire more than 700 customer service reps through the automation of that type of capability that otherwise just couldn't be done before. It's not that we didn't have chatbots, but they just never were able to work at that capability and with that wide variety of natural language. And I think another notable example has been the incredible push by the professional services companies. The push has been in multiple directions. These companies are built to deliver knowledge work, consultants, right? And sure, it makes sense that the internal adoption of Gen AI tools can drastically accelerate and improve the quality of such knowledge work. And I think you can see that they're doing that across the board. Deloitte has been rolling out its chatbot, a custom-built chatbot internally to 75,000 employees to increase productivity, to help make their knowledge work faster. PwC investing $1 billion to train their workers on these type of capabilities. And in addition to improving themselves and improving their own, they're also investing in tooling to deliver new capabilities to their customers. I mentioned Accenture buying Udacity, for example, but also investing $3 billion in client reinvention. These are services around data and AI and expecting to double the amount of AI talent they have as a company. So I think these are just some data points to show you real world examples and just show that AI is moving beyond the hype and actually starting to hit where actual work gets done. Now, while these are interesting and excitement, as we know, with great power comes great responsibility and a great number of challenges. What kind of challenges? Well, there are a variety of issues, and these are just a few high-profile examples of the type of challenges. So you may have heard in the news, Air Canada had a chatbot that erroneously promised a discount to a traveler. It was basically a hallucination. It made up such a discount. And interestingly, the courts found that Air Canada was liable for the bot's behavior and was mandated to honor whatever the crazy discount that the bot had made up. So, these have real world implications in doing these things, and doing these things wrong. Another challenge, there's been such rapid pace and innovation, but some of these systems are struggling to keep up. Uptime and performance. I mean, ChatGPT has been offline at times. People who use OpenAI to back up their system have had latency, slowness, and uptime challenges, and people have had challenges relying on these systems to provide production level capabilities. Safety is another issue, whether it's sensitive data being leaked to an AI provider, plagiarism, unsanctioned use of AI-generated data, PII, all sorts of challenges around safety and security. And one of the last mentioned here, and there's others, but just to give the example, is bias. Even if used correctly, there is the chance that the AI responds or generates an answer or an image that is inherently biased. And so, again, while there are great, incredible applications, there are also notable challenges of deploying these powerful systems and how to use them well. So, okay, so with all of that as a backdrop on the AI landscape, let's change directions and specifically explore the number of opportunities AI presents within the enterprise and across the various domains. And look, it's worth stating, even though it's obvious, that AI is not its own capability per se, right? AI is an enablement of capabilities across the enterprise. So we can see things across sales and marketing, corporate knowledge, reporting and business intelligence, customer support, operations, human resources, and more. And I won't go through all examples in this presentation, but I'll just try to highlight a few and then go into depth to show a couple demos. So some examples of the type of things that we're seeing and that can be done within sales and marketing, for example, is the automation in digital marketing is a big one. So this is the automating of writing, creation, selection, optimizing things like social media campaigns, drafting customized sales proposals or customizing sales responses in emails. Analyzing sales calls, providing coaching on a sales basis, automating email campaigns and the responses to emails. So a variety of things that are, that fit in the bucket of creation of content and curation of content, analyzing and the likes. Within operations and knowledge management, we've seen many things around business process automation. So for example, document translation from English to Spanish, Spanish to English, or between many other languages. Helping to search or use natural language to access corporate knowledge base. So like looking for documents, accessing documents, reusing documents, the things that you saw from the professional services companies. Conversational interfaces for document repositories. And even within the legal environment, you've heard of e-discovery, being able to analyze huge amounts of emails or archival documents to be able to piece together information of what took place over a period of time, things like this. Things that used to be human analysts before and now can be automated. And in human resources, there are numerous applications, whether it's standardizing and reformatting resumes, reviewing resumes versus a job requirement and providing quantitative and qualitative feedback and assessments, mining past applicant data versus employees, sort of learning what skills and resumes correlated well with performance, who we hired, who we didn't hire, improving job description marketing in social media, making it more tailored based on what we see works, and generating screening questions, making it more straightforward to take a resume and a job description. What are the most salient interview questions I may need to ask? So these are just a few examples I wanted to sort of highlight at a high level, but you can see that there are just incredible number of things that are emerging in the enterprise and more across the whole stack. So now I'm going to spend a little bit of time to sort of deep dive into a few just to show you exactly how some things like this are working. So first, I'll dig into a sales and marketing example and a use case that we've seen, where using AI as a market analyst or a marketing analyst. So the typical activity here is where you engage an analyst or an individual who does research, compiles information, synthesizes, analyzes, and many of those activities can now be automated. So examples of this kind of activity are doing research on competitors, trying to compile information on competitors, pricing, developing market maps to understand who are the players within a new industry, who are the vendors or partners we might look at, conducting research on prospects to understand who are maybe decision makers, or what are the type of products or offerings that they bought in the past, what kind of news and things like that. So the basic concept is straightforward. Is essentially a business user poses a request, something like, can you conduct market research on topic XYZ? The AI system understands that request, translates that request into a series of web searches, searches the web, extracts and compiles the information from those web searches, and then prepares a summarized report for the user. This kind of activity can be automated and scaled inexpensively and quickly provide all sorts of information. So this, for example, is a demonstration of such a system conducting market research. Just by being prompted with company names, like OpenAI, Anthropic, Midjourney, the system conducts web searches to both find the website of those companies, and then does the necessary search to find various information like the cited revenue reported. These numbers are a little dated already, as you can see, and compile a succinct table to summarize that information. So we use this tool, for example, to create market maps, looking for revenue, investment raised, whether a company has an open source repository, product pricing, and things like that. And you can imagine this tool and tools like this can be extended for a broader class of research, doing practically any amount of searching and summarization capabilities that you would otherwise have to do manually or do at scale. So you can imagine doing, for hundreds of companies and hundreds of different use cases like this. Okay. Another example that I find compelling is around corporate knowledge and knowledge management. This has been a challenging problem for years of how to actually access and reuse information. And it's become an even more challenging problem as data has been growing exponentially between emails, Slack, Teams, enterprise documents, audio, video, and more. It's becoming increasingly difficult to get a handle on all that information, whether it's simply searching to find something or more sophisticated use cases like trying to understand a large historical project, like what took place in a project that was over a 3-year project, or how to ramp up a new hire where there's lots of documents and spread out. How to codify and leverage institutional wisdom that may have been gained from different projects and processes, or simply just making use and reuse of information like previous presentations or proposals or spreadsheets, things like that PwC, Accenture, and Deloitte are all trying to do. And in this case, at a simplistic level, the flow is that a user makes a query of what they're trying to accomplish. Again, the system can understand that natural language request, search multiple varieties of internal repositories like public folders, Dropbox, emails, what have you, extract the necessary information, and then synthesize and compile that information into a succinct answer or a response. And so this process describes a broad use case around knowledge and could be for any type: intranet, archival files, emails, or more. So here I'll show a brief video. So this is hopefully a little bit more clear to see, and I'll try to walk it through. So this is first, the user's asking, what are the documents about and how do they relate to each other? And an answer comes back and shows that they're education-related documents. What are the main topics of these documents? Make a list, and it brings back several topics: educational data mining, learning analytics. Can you provide a deeper definition of each topic? And it provides a deeper definition based on what it found from those documents, for example. What are the problems around online learning? And it goes and finds, recognizing disengagement, challenges providing help, et cetera. It summarizes that from the various documents in those areas. How does learning analytics help, et cetera? Okay, so you get the idea. The main point here is that unlike ChatGPT, this is actually running solely on the data from our enterprise corpus and can access that data and limit answers to that data. And instead of just referring to a few documents, like a few PDFs that you might upload, this can be across thousands of documents across the entire corpus that you may have and accumulated over many years. So a very different capability than we've seen in the past. Okay, moving along. Another interesting area that's been talked a lot about is customer support. chatbots and voice bots have been in the market for years, but the rise in capabilities in ChatGPT really brought this to the forefront. And in trying to deliver to that promise, I mean, working with customers directly really can provide high value if you can do it well. So providing help desk, leveraging past answers and questions from service reps, providing help to users who are trying to buy a product and have product inquiry questions, helping answer sales inquiries, and more. And the basic concept is, take a request, understand the request, access an internal repository or product catalog, and then take the necessary action or generate an appropriate response. So here, whoops, excuse me. Here's another, and I'll try to show it actually in, again, a video here. I apologize, the video is not working well, so I'll read it along to you here, but this is an audio bot where, users saying, can I have 2 crunchy tacos, no lettuce? And it goes on, 1 bean burrito, 1 Mountain Dew, 1 soft taco with chicken. Can you replace the Mountain Dew for a Diet Pepsi? Can you add some cinnamon twists? And this is taking place, in real time with a complex, verbal order like that. And so this is an example of a use case within a fast food ordering process where, I had background in this space, but you can imagine this, of course, call centers and a number of other cases where you're either acting on behalf of the user or trying to understand, real-time customer support cases in voice like that. So this is just, again, a little bit of that type of example. Okay, I'll move on. The last area I wanted to share about is reporting and business intelligence, where AI is used to answer internal enterprise data-related questions. So this could be anything from financial reporting questions, operational metrics, or sales productivity. And it can be as simple as just looking up a piece of data, or it can be, more complex requests like doing some regression or other analysis. Instead of hunting around for, a particular dashboard or waiting for a data analyst or having to write your own queries or code, these capabilities really promise to help users ask questions in their own language and have the AI systems do the work to answer the question in the way that you really posed it. So here's again, an example where there's a repository of database, and the question is, show me revenue growth over time organized by product. And the bot, converts data, groups the items, calculates the revenue over the orders, and visualize the revenue growth with a graph. And you can see a graph here over a number of years, over many types of items, baby food, beverages, cereal, clothes, and so forth. So, sort of just gave me that answer instead of having to hunt for that dashboard. And I say, classify the products into fewer buckets and aggregate by year. So this went ahead and classified the various items that we had into different buckets, food and beverage, clothing and cosmetics, and then grouped it by year. And I get a much clearer graph that helps me understand this data much better. But simply just by asking this, instead of getting a report done or having to look through a dashboard and hunt and peck myself, I can just ask exactly what I want and have the system do the work for me. Okay, so this brings us to technology. I mean, in order to bring opportunities like this to life, we need a robust foundation of the enabling technologies. And while I don't intend to go into the specifics of all of that, I did want to highlight a few main points about building AI solutions today. I think one of the main points to know is that prototyping AI applications has never been easier. I mean, sometimes it's as simple as trying something out in ChatGPT. I mean, there's been an increasing number of tools that make that easy, like OpenAI has its custom GPTs or its assistance API. There are several no-code tools. There are things like LangChain and many, many more. And while it's easy to prototype, I think it's really important to note that it's still not very easy to get these live in production. I mean, deploying an enterprise class AI system can have many pitfalls. And that's what I want to talk a little bit about and describe some about. So there are sort of 2 classes of challenges of getting systems working in a production setting. One is around performance. So, the main issue, of course, is getting good quality results. How do you avoid hallucinations when you have a broad class of users, not just in your department? How do you maintain guardrails on the domain of the scope so that AI doesn't go off answering or making up unrelated answers? There are questions of how do you customize for different types and different classes of users? Is the system performant? Is it fast enough? Is it scalable enough to handle a large number of users with a good response? And of course, costs. I mean, these models are incredibly cheap in some ways, but as you add a number of users, they can scale to become quite expensive. And then in terms of, are they enterprise ready? I mean, how well is the system integrated with the rest of your system? How do you ensure appropriate security and authentication? How do you drive the right level of reliability and uptime? Providing reporting and analytics to understand how well these things work and are instrumented for improvements, optimizing those results. And of course, all the application management things like continuous deployment, version control, updates, and the like that you need. So I think given the challenge, there's a few things to keep in mind. And first, as I mentioned, just because you have a prototype doesn't mean you are ready to deploy. Second, rarely does one size fits all. I mean, there are a number of techniques and patterns you may have heard about, like RAG and fine tuning and all of this, and they're great, but using them may vary on your use case for sure. And it's important to note that. And third, I think while AI expertise is, of course, helpful and important, I think you also need to think strongly about having enterprise IT knowledge and capabilities. And I encourage you to make sure you take a broad look at the system design when you're planning for sure. So I think this is really you think of four main areas when building a system, and this is just the typical type of system enhanced as we think about AI. So when we do our design and planning, capturing requirements, creating proper architecture, we need to take into consideration safety and guardrails, compliance and performance, those kind of things that are not necessarily obvious in building any other kind of web application, let's say. Same with building. The building can include the model selection, the model customization, and those pieces we think about as the AI. But you need to integrate with those other systems and make sure the AI and the systems play nicely together, that the data appropriately flows between systems, that it can be customized upon the different use cases. And of course, that the user experience and user interface are tailored to handle the kind of things that can happen with a natural language bot that can do many, many type of things. Testing, iterating, and operating. Testing is notoriously tricky because these are not predictable systems. And it's not the same as classic software. You need iterative improvements to tune the accuracy of these. And the last is deployment and operation. I mean, including that you can ensure you have a strong update and versioning process. You need monitoring, logging, reliable. So many of the classic system architecture pieces are needed with an augmentation for things around AI. So in summary, I can share to wrap up here, AI's capabilities are fast growing, and there are lots of incredible opportunities to deploy AI in the enterprise today. I think it's easy to get a quick sense, and I encourage you to spend time, in your groups to prototype and test things out. Just note that just because you have a prototype doesn't mean it's ready for production, and you need to be careful of all the potential pitfalls. When bringing a system to production, be deliberate in combining enterprise expertise and design principles so you can maximize the effectiveness of the solution and anticipate and try to minimize the challenge and pitfalls. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to your comments and questions.
Okay. Subair, we got a couple of questions. One of them is double, so we'll start for the first, the simple one. What is the best AI model to use for an enterprise?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, the models are changing quickly, and it will definitely depend in an enterprise setting. I think at this stage, they're all easy enough to experiment with that you will need to make some evaluation based on performance for your use case. Then looking at things like pricing, whatever particular features, like, OpenAI has functions which are very popular, which hosting cloud that you're in, and security type of capabilities you are. So I think it's not a very elaborate, but you'll probably need to make a matrix, and it is changing all the time. So I think in this day and age, it behooves you to have capability to be able to test them out quickly and easily. Then, of course, you can make a commitment and go. But I'd say that it really will depend on the use case.
Thank you, Subair. Next is double question.
Okay.
How can we efficiently organize your knowledge base in our company for AI use while avoiding problems? And how should we structure our AI use policy?
Yeah, great. So I think that, it certainly depends on the domain and if there are compliance related issues, if these are internal users or these are being put for external users. For internal users, I think companies like Deloitte and others have been fast to roll out to some extent because they're instructing and training individuals to beware of the potential for hallucinations. I think when putting forward to a broad external like in customer support, we need to be more careful and really test and build around those. So I'd say that's, yeah. In terms of how to deploy these, I think, again, depends on the use case. If it is looking at email archives or documents, there are an increasing number of products that are coming out. And I think depending on your use case, you can build custom solutions very straightforward these days. And we're enabling that, and we're seeing many of those for others. I think these are not necessarily complicated projects, but it does take, like I mentioned, some amount of design to understand what are the goals in those. And sorry, was there a second question that I missed, or?
Is how should we structure our AI use policy?
Yeah, so I think the different pieces around are around things like what information are you willing to put into a system? Is the system captive, or is it sending information to something like OpenAI or Google? So if you use a closed source system, an open source system on your own infrastructure, or if you use, OpenAI has an enterprise license that is separated. So depending on which of those things you use, you may have things around PII and what information you're allowing to put into the system. You can look at use for plagiarism and safety. And then you can look at things like hallucinations and accuracy, and maybe have, a couple, 3, 4 of these. But I think, again, depending on the use case, probably needs to be developed out in these maybe 3, 4 areas, I'd suggest.
Thank you, Subair. And the last, no, there are one more. Do you have example of AI use in oil and gas industry?
So I think the question around industry, what we're seeing right now has been, and the focus has been around enterprise across the board. So maybe not specifically for one industry, but looking at departments within this. So as I mentioned, seeing applications within finance, productivity within customer support, sales and marketing, and that. So at this point, we've been seeing many across that are not necessarily vertical. There are some vertical focused kind of things, but even them, they tend to be examples of the things that I mentioned, internal customer support, external customer support, operational workflows, and things like this. So we are seeing, these kind of enterprise across the board.
Okay, thanks. Two more. Do you see any legislation or government intervention regulation to protect consumers from AI errors?
That's a good question. To protect consumers or the businesses. As I mentioned, I think it's early, and I don't have a great answer to this one. I mean, at this point, it does seem like that businesses are going to be liable for so-called AI errors of that type. Now, I think the big providers like ChatGPT and things like this, like Google Gemini, who are providing a service back out, it is going to be an interesting question if they've disclaimed those, and the AI if a user makes use of something from ChatGPT in some erroneous way. I'm not sure that there's going to be any legislation that will protect either party in those cases. But it's a good question. I'm not sure I have a great answer on that beyond that right now. So
We go to the last one. Is there a way to gauge the quality response for AI? How do we trust, since there is so much information on the internet and some of this is not correct?
yeah, that is a really great question. So if the question is like, if I ask ChatGPT a question and I want to know if something like that's accurate, the couple concepts you could try is you can interrogate the ChatGPT a little bit further. It says, "Are you sure? Is there a case when that's not true?" Something like this. You can also, now I think there are such good alternatives, models that you can try in others. You could give the answer from ChatGPT and pose it back to Google Gemini. Say, "Hey, is this answer accurate?" None of these are 100% fail safe, but those are good ways. And I think between, you have ChatGPT, you have Gemini, you have Claude, you've got Pi, Perplexity to some extent, although it uses GPT. You've got a number of these models that you can try back and forth with each other, and you can try interrogating. I think within the enterprise, you need to build in some sort of broader set of class of test cases and constantly be evaluating for quality amongst those.
Perfect. So we are running just out of time, so we have to close the webinar. Thank you again for attending the webinar. Thanks, Subair, for this amazing presentation, and thank you all. Appreciate to be here and hope to meet you back in the next webinar.
Thanks, Rodolfo. Thanks for the opportunity. Take care.